Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel for my Sunday D&D update. Unfortunately, I am out of the country right now, so I'm missing some Dark Sun campaigns, but I figured why go without content for these 2 weeks, and so I'm going to tell you about how I got into Dungeons & Dragons in the first place. This video is partially inspired by Adam Rowe, who recently did a How I Got Into D&D video, so I will link that down below. And without further ado, let's get into the story. Now, I feel like I got into Dungeons & Dragons in kind of a backwards, slid down a slope and ended up here kind of way, but I'd love to hear your comments about how you got into it, or what you think about my journey into it, or what you think about my journey into it down in the comments below. Growing up, we didn't play Dungeons & Dragons. We played a lot of video games, but we didn't play Magic, we didn't play Dungeons & Dragons. That was what my brother and I did. When I left high school, I went to university and I really got into fan fiction writing and just writing in general. Then a couple years down the road in 2011, 2012, my brother met a friend who really liked Dungeons & Dragons and got them all into it. I was living away from home, so I was just kind of hearing about it on the side. Like, oh, now my brother's playing Dungeons & Dragons. After being a player for a while, my brother wanted to start DMing, and so he started to run campaigns, and then he also had the idea of making his own campaigns. And that is where I came in. Because I was outside the circle of friends playing Dungeons & Dragons, I was an easy person to bounce ideas off of and to also kind of help create these campaigns. In 2012, in March, my brother started emailing me about this campaign he was working on, and then I believe in April he came over to Vancouver to visit me just so we could start writing this campaign. And I distinctly remember going downtown to a food court, eating lunch, and brainstorming this campaign, which was called The Rise of Orcus. We had a lot of crazy things that happened. There were kobolds, there was a magic ring that could bring you back in time 1 hour, but you couldn't use it within that hour or something. There was a lot going on. It was our first effort to write a campaign together. I didn't even know how Dungeons & Dragons was played. I was just the idea person. But from what I hear, the campaign went off great and all the players really enjoyed it. That prompted my brother to text me pretty regularly for assistance if he was stuck with a problem, and I would just be like, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? I remember suggesting dragons during his spell jamming campaign and various other random things. Flash forward a couple of years, I think like 2014, 2015, and he wanted to write another campaign. I distinctly remember the first time he texted me about this, I was downtown Vancouver walking down Granville Street, and I get a text message saying, hey, I'm working on this campaign, this is the situation, what should we do? And what we did was we split the party, and we created a campaign called Doppeldungeon. And it's a campaign where you're not really sure who your friends are and who your enemies are. I don't want to get into too much detail on that because it is available through DriveThruRPG for free, so I will link that down below and you can go check that out. But everyone who's played it seemed to really like it, so that's super awesome. Then in 2016, or thereabouts, my brother decided to start working on another campaign. This one was called Too Old to Die Young, and it's about a group of adventurers who, well past their heyday, though they didn't really have one, returned to a city that they had adventured in when they were a younger party. And it's kind of the relationships that they had then, the relationships that they had now, and how their effects on the town when they were younger have carried on to this day. That was a much more expansive campaign. It was much larger, it was much bigger. It is also available on DriveThruRPG, and I'll link it down below, but I think that one you have to pay for. I don't know, I didn't put them up. But that's how I kind of ended up sliding into the D&D thing, by taking a very non-traditional route. Even when I was reading through the stories that my brother would send back to me so I could proof them or add extra things, I had no idea what was going on with the roll tables and the 1d6 or whatever. I had no idea. There were a few times that my brother tried to get me to Skype in, but just working a full-time job and then trying to find the time to Skype in, I just slept instead. Because naps are great, right? It wasn't until about a year ago that I ended up actually playing my first session. It was just before our group had made the transition from 3.5 to 5th edition, and so I was super confused. My brother made up a character sheet for me so I wouldn't have to do any of the rolls or anything, and I just kind of played, but it was just very confusing. It wasn't until I moved back to my hometown in June that I really started to join in on the sessions on a regular basis. And also with it being 5th edition, it was a lot easier. And now it's been like 6 months and we play every Friday, so I would say I'm not an expert, but I at least have my feet under me. Especially now that we're playing in Dark Sun, it's my second character, it's my second campaign, So I'm really starting to understand the game mechanics better, which helps me develop my character's personality a lot better. And I definitely do like my character in Dark Sun better than my character that I was playing in Planescape. Not to say I didn't like her, I really liked her, but I prefer Salanthithius a lot more. But yeah, that's basically how I got into playing Dungeons and Dragons. Is it normal to start writing campaigns before you start playing? I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and I'd love to hear how you got into playing Dungeons and Dragons, and maybe what your favorite edition is. I've only played 3.5 and 5, but from the very brief time on 3.5, I definitely prefer 5 a lot better. But that's it for me for now. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like button. If you want to see more content like this, hit subscribe. I will be posting Dungeons & Dragons updates every Sunday, even if they're not Dark Sun right now because I'm not there to play the game, but I'll try to get a recap from everything that happened when I was gone when I come back. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.